After serving 2 full terms as President of the United States, Ronald Reagan retired quietly to his ranch in California. Many people assumed his time in the spotlight was over, that his role in shaping lives had ended when he left the White House. But that couldn't have been further from the truth. One evening in the late 1980s, Reagan was going through a stack of letters. Even after his presidency, he continued receiving hundreds of messages from Americans. Some were thank yous, others asked for guidance or shared stories of struggle. Reagan, known for his deep empathy, often insisted on reading many of them himself. Among the pile, there was one letter that stopped him cold. It was handwritten by a woman named Joan Drake. Her words were filled with quiet desperation. Her husband, John Drake, had been diagnosed with an aggressive form of leukemia. Doctors had offered one last chance, a rare and expensive bone marrow transplant. The problem was, the procedure cost over $150,000. Money the Drakes didn't have. Insurance had denied coverage. The family had already sold their belongings and drained their savings. There was nothing left. Joan's letter wasn't demanding, it wasn't political, it was a raw cry from a wife trying to save her husband's life. She had written to Ronald Reagan not because she expected a miracle, but because she believed that maybe, just maybe, the man she had watched on TV, the man who once said America was a shining city on a hill, might care enough to listen. And he did. Without hesitation, Ronald Reagan called for a pen. He didn't ask aides to look into it. He didn't forward the letter to a charity or a government office. He didn't even ask for a tax write-off. He simply wrote a personal check, enough to cover a large portion of the treatment. He included a short, sincere note, encouraging the Drakes to keep believing, to keep fighting. Then he quietly had the envelope mailed. No press release, no cameras, no applause. The Drakes were stunned. A man who had once led the most powerful country in the world had not only read their letter, he had reached into his own pocket to help save a life. John was able to undergo the transplant. The procedure gave him more years, more time with his family, more birthdays, more mornings with sunlight pouring through the kitchen window. This act of kindness wasn't an isolated case. After Reagan passed away in 2004, stories like this began to surface. Letters came in from people he had helped quietly, without ever taking credit. In public, Reagan was known for his strength, his optimism, and his leadership. But in private, he was something even more powerful. A man who saw people, who listened, who acted, not for praise, but because he believed in the dignity of every human being. In a world where power often walks hand in hand with ego, Ronald Reagan reminded us that real power is humble. That greatness is not measured by how loudly you speak, but by how deeply you care, especially when no one is watching. This wasn't just the story of a former president helping a family in need. This was the story of a man whose heart remained open long after the spotlight faded. A man who kept his promise to serve, even after he had nothing left to gain.